Hi everybody, today I'm here with Guyanese author Imam Baksh, and we are going to be discussing diversity and representation in young adult literature. So I would just like to start off by asking you to tell them a little bit about yourself, what got you into writing, and maybe about some of your books.
Right. Well, I'm from Guyana, which is a Caribbean culture, but it's in mainland South America. And what got me into writing was that I became a reader. So, as a reader, I got interested in certain types of books, and I thought to myself, I could write these stories. I like these stories. I want more. And the stories came off the page to my head, and stories started playing out in my head, and I wanted to put that down on the page. In terms of my books, I've written 2 novels. Let me backtrack. I've published 1 novel. It was the winner of the 2015 Code Burt Award for Young Adult Literature. It's called Children of the Spider. I wrote a manuscript after that called The Demise of the Queen's College Adventure Club, where vampires take over my old high school. That was shortlisted for the Burt Award, but it did not win, and it has not been published as yet. And this year, I've won the Code Burt Award again for a book called The Dark of the Sea, which is a novel about a young boy who's troubled by real-life circumstances, social issues, the disrepair and neglect of the education system, high suicide rates, the rural malaise of unemployment, but he's also fighting horrific monsters from the deep because he lives in the coast. These 3 books are definitely set in Guyana. They're very Guyanese. And you might have noticed that I seem to be writing for Code Burt Award, and that is actually very true. I used to write short stories a lot, and I always thought of writing a novel, but it wasn't until the Code Burt Awards came along and they provided an avenue to be published that I actually sat down and took the effort to write a novel, and that was Children of the Spider. And since then, the award is an annual award, so I've taken to trying and write a book every year.
How important do you think it is to represent diverse communities, like communities that are not necessarily, the typical North American, European communities that we tend to see in mainstream literature? So as you said, you write books that are set in Guyana, presumably about Guyanese characters. How important do you think that is to add to the literary canon, especially the young adult literary canon? And how important do you think these books are in having conversations about Guyanese or Caribbean society?
Alright, so I'll go in parts with that. The first part, I definitely think that representing the culture that I come from, whatever demographic you split that in, religion, race, geography, I think it's absolutely important to represent myself. But my take on it is a little different. I grew up reading what was available, which was mostly Eurocentric, American-centric books, and I loved them. And I never felt too much like I was not represented, because for me, I think especially because I grew up in a rural community that was, in a word, boring, I wanted to see the world, and this was my window on different people. And I think it helped me become a more understanding person to read about a boy who fights a crocodile in Africa, or a boy who herds sheep in Australia, or these stories that are from different geographies and cultures help me to see the world as a more universal place, that I was a citizen not just of my corner of the world, but of all of it. So when it comes to representing myself, I'm not looking to see that I put people like me for readers like me. I'm actually hoping to tell the rest of the world, okay, I saw what you have. You've told me about yourself. I want to tell you about me, and I want to explain myself to you, and you can understand me. Now that's a little different. A lot of people who see an importance in diversity, see it in terms of readers of a certain ignored group getting to enjoy characters that are representative of their group. And that's important. But I really like the part of the process where people on the other side of the horizon are hearing from me and starting to see me as part of their world. And I think both processes are important, because as much as we want to understand ourselves or see ourselves, the process of representing your demographic, your part of the world, the larger project is that understanding, that seeing each other for who we are and having empathy and understanding of what the priorities or differences are, but what also the commonalities are. The second part of your question, what was it you said?
How important are these stories for having conversations about Guyanese and Caribbean society,
that
or
part,
about your particular communities?
That part is a little problematic. Guyana is a low literacy country. I've heard that even in Trinidad, functional illiteracy might be as high as 45%. And I wouldn't be surprised if Guyana has equal or higher numbers. Which means that if you're trying to communicate to your own community through literature, you're effectively shut out from a large part of the audience. And that makes it difficult to write to these people in your audience. And my latest book, for instance, is about teenage boys who are disaffected in the education system, people who have learning disabilities like dyslexia and can't participate in classroom activities, so they get shut out from opportunities in the wider world. I would like to say something to these people, these boys, these kids. I think this book is something that they could read and see themselves in, but do they have the tools to access it? It's kind of a chicken and the egg problem. If they're shut out to begin with, and I'm speaking to them, they'll never hear me. And I don't have a solution to that. The only way I know to express myself is the literature, the spoken word, the written word. Other people in the community they do things like YouTube skits. You know, they're young guys who are in their 20s. They'll get together, 3 or 4 of them, and they'll do a funny skit about a road accident, and those get shared on Facebook. Hundreds of thousands of likes or whatever. People from India do it, and people from other places like Africa do it, and they're popular in Guyana. And that's actually a much more effective communication route into the minds of young people, but it's not my tool set.
That was a very interesting response, and thank you very much for this interview. I really appreciate you being here with me. Everybody make sure to go and check out his books. I will leave all the relevant links in the description down below. And yeah, thanks for watching.